Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show, and happy Friday, ending an incredible week. Well, not incredible for some. For the far left and Hollywood types, they're still absolutely losing their minds. They think it is a not credible week. They think it's just an awful week. I mean, it's been very, very traumatic. Can you imagine yourself so upset about an election? And I'm sure everybody out there has had the feeling where you're upset about an election. And you're so upset to the point where a tear starts pouring out of your eye. And what you do is you grab your phone. That's what they're doing. They're screaming and crying into their phones, which is just perfectly on brand. Total performative sadness, distress, because what they want is for you to feel sorry for them. They don't actually just want to sit alone in their sadness, which is what a mature adult would do. Okay. The freakouts are on full display. We're going to go through some of them because, let's face it, we've earned it. But first, I'm going to be joined with one of the people who played a critical role in the next future president's 47th position here. It's not an understatement to say that this man is responsible for helping the Republicans win back the White House and the U.S. Senate. Joining me now is Charlie Kirk, founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and host of The Charlie Kirk Show. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. The holiday season is here and things are busier than ever. If your business relies on mailing or shipping, Stamps.com is a must-have. With Stamps.com, you can print postage online, saving valuable time to focus on what matters most, running your business smoothly. Stamps.com is more than just a shipping solution for small businesses. It's a reliable partner for organizations of all sizes, managing all of your mailing and shipping needs from one platform. Think of Stamps.com as your 24/7 post office. Avoid the holiday traffic jams by handling all of your shipping from your computer or phone anytime, anywhere. And they offer discounts you will not find anywhere else. Up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates. Stock up on everything you need, from labels to shipping supplies, right from their supply store. More holiday, less hustle. Free up more time with Stamps.com. Sign up at Stamps.com and enter code MK for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code MK. Charlie, congratulations.
Thank you. Well, as Kamala Harris would say, we did it, Joe, but we did it, Megyn. And your speech was awesome, by the way. Thank you for your support and how amazing that was. I really believed it moved votes. And not to mention, just your podcast here, I think it held the line with sane women in this country and gave them an understanding of the stakes and gave them an understanding of really what we are up against. And so you deserve a lot of credit too, Megyn, because this was really a coalition. There's so much to unpack from this election. Part of it is also how alternative media was able to crush the major propagandist networks. And you look at 4 years ago during COVID, all of our alternative media was largely censored, but we won this time. Podcasts and shows like this one, Joe Rogan, my show, the All In podcast, the left couldn't keep up with it. And President Trump, to his great credit, built a once-in-a-lifetime unity ticket, which I think the media completely underestimated, from Bobby Kennedy to Tulsi Gabbard. And then finally, of course, it cannot be repeated enough. God bless Elon Musk. I mean, that guy put it all on the line. I mean, it wasn't just like he wrote a check and hoped it would get better. He lived in Pennsylvania the last 45 days of the election. He personally would host town halls across the state of Pennsylvania. He was giving away $1 million a day to random citizens to help encourage citizen participation. And so there's a lot of people that deserve credit. We all kind of played a small role. And that's why it feels so different than 2016. 2016 was just lightning in a bottle, took them by surprise. It was a movement. This was really 30 or 40 different people that went all in, that we just called the bluff of the Democrats, and we beat the most powerful thing ever to exist in the history of the world. It's pretty awesome. Praise God.
Oh, it's amazing. And you are so generous and kind to be giving me any credit when you truly deserve actual credit for getting Donald Trump elected. I mean, truly, you're one of a handful of 5 that really made the difference. And we need look no further than the youth vote. That wasn't the exclusive reign of your influence, but man, When have young people come out for the Republican? I mean, like never. And especially in today's day and age where he's been totally demonized all over TikTok and the sources of information that they use. But you reached billions. I mean, obviously there's not that many people voting in this election, but I mean, the number of views of your videos going out onto these college campuses, challenging them, saying, go ahead, like, why are you voting for her? Let's walk through it. That would go viral every time. We have to look at some of them because, like I said, it's just so fun right now. Here's one woman who was very much determined to believe that Donald Trump is a racist, and here's Charlie dismantling her. Saw it too.
You got to give me a good reason, at least two, why you don't like Trump.
He's racist. Yup, boomy.
Can you define what does it mean to be racist?
Do you want me to look up a definition?
No, I want you to. You said he's a racist, so you must have a definition of racism in your mind. Tell me what that definition is.
Okay, so, I'm gonna make you guys wait on this. Ooh, zero knowledge.
Guys, please don't heckle.
It's hatred towards another race, right?
So when has he ever exhibited that? Give me clear and specific examples.
You got one? Well, yeah, I heard someone say he told. Yes!
Okay, but let me just help you out here.
Uh-huh.
What, you think he's a racist because the media has told you he's a racist? Because you can't give me an example off the top of your head, and even when you phone a friend to the audience. I'm not criticizing you. Maybe the media is lying to you.
Wow. Truer words were never spoken. How many exchanges do you think you had like that on college campuses, Charlie?
Oh, I mean, we had hundreds this semester. That particular video, by the way, received over 60 million views on TikTok alone. 60, and that's just, and so we tallied it up. It was, again, billions of views. So that means that target young voters were watching our content 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And so Megyn, we do these tours. I visited 25 college campuses this semester, which is the most I've ever done. And over the summer, we said, how do we make a difference? And we were doing these videos in the spring. And I came up with the idea. I said, man, I think the election is going to be as hot as a pistol. I think there's going to be a lot of interest. Why don't we do the most tours ever? But instead of the traditional evening events, why don't we do these kind of dialogues and these exchanges to try to see if we can show the world the contrast of ideas and to see which ideas are better and to kind of create this digital movement of people that want to make up their mind. And Megyn, it was way more successful than I could have ever imagined. And part of it was how unscripted it was. There was no, anyone could come up at any time, a professor, a professional debater, you could bring notes, you could bring 10 friends with you. There's no rules, right? And so that's very interesting to an audience, both digital and in person. And it was so real when so much of this campaign on the Democrat side was fake and synthetic. And so here we were with the most real thing you can do, which is set up a table and talk to people that are 180 degrees opposed to you. And so we started doing these events in the first one we did was University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we drew 2,000 people. And I said, I've been doing this for 12 years, okay? I've done more on college campuses than I think anybody in this space, not belittling anybody, but it's been the fields of which I've been working for 12 years. We'd be lucky to get like 100 people and a lot of protesters, right? We drew 2,000 people in Madison as our first one in September. And I turned to my team, I said, is this an anomaly? Is there something happening at Madison that I don't know? And all of a sudden we did 3 or 4 more, and it was becoming the rule. And I said to my team, I said, guys, something is happening on these campuses. And the media was ignoring it. In fact, we were mocked on social media by all the intelligentsia of the political establishment, right and the left, saying, oh, the polls show that younger voters are going to go for Kamala than ever before. And I said, well, maybe. But what I'm seeing is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And not only that, Megyn, our ground game and our ground team was registering these kids to vote. We were getting thousands and thousands of these first-time voters. So it wasn't just like, okay, let's put on a show and we leave. We were translating the support into votes, which is kind of was the operating thesis. It was our theory of the case, if you will, as we were going into this. And then finally, as a kicker, we had Mark McKinnon go to one of our campus stops, who's a fair guy, but he's definitely not a Trumper, and he was a Bush guy.
No.
He did the circus. And I've always had respect for him. And he started to see this stuff on social media, and to his credit, unlike anybody else, he's like, I need to see this. He was almost like, I don't believe it. So he went to the University of Georgia, and we drew 5,000 people, Megyn. 5,000 people at the University of Georgia. And he went and he was like, I said that Kamala was going to win, but now I'm second guessing myself based on what he saw. I was like, yeah, Mark, I mean, there's something happening here. And now the exit polls, we won the youth vote in Michigan. We almost won it in Wisconsin. In Pennsylvania, we don't know, but we almost flipped Center County, which is Penn State. We got within 1 point of it, which usually it's a 20-point Democrat victory there. And we went to Penn State and did a massive event. We did 5 events in Penn State, by the way, this cycle for obvious reasons. And it's tempting to say that it was a landslide, which it was. However, let me kind of humble the audience a little bit. Donald Trump won by less than a point in Wisconsin, about 28,000 votes. He won by a point-ish, 1.2 in Michigan. And then he won by 1 point in Pennsylvania. And so, Megyn, it is conceivable that without this record movement of youth vote, he doesn't win. And I'm not saying that because I'm, in that space, but we're talking about a 1.5 points across 3 states. Now, the Sunbelt states were more generous and were more decisive. But as you know, everyone was saying, if you can't win a Rust Belt state, Kamala is president. So you could say that the kids are all right, and the kids put Donald Trump back in the White House.
It's incredible. I mean, no one's really paid that much attention to them before. It's one of those things where Republicans have always assumed they're not gettable. And then along comes Charlie Kirk. I mean, I don't mean to go totally biblical on you, but I really feel like this is destiny. And I've been thinking about you this past week so much because I know we talked about this in 2016. You were like Don Jr.'s assistant. You were helping him with bags.
I was getting diet Red Bulls for, sugar-free Red Bulls for Don Jr. I had no Twitter followers. We had Turning Point, but it was a small thing. And yeah, 8 years ago, I was a bag carrier.
It's incredible. Okay, so this is what made me think of you, among other things, the obvious. I know you saw this clip. Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated, not non-college educated, the uneducated, which is what you are in Sunny Hostin's view, including you, Charlie Kirk, because she's conflating, right, people who didn't go to college with people who are uneducated. We've got to look at the clip, and then I need your reaction.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president. Right. So why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? And why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to deport, says he's going to deport the majority of his community?
White women like being called uneducated white women. I think the economy matters, national security matters. But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway from this race.
Okay. It's amazing. She's specifically there referring to the women, but of course it's the non-college educated men as well who voted for Donald Trump. And the nerve of this woman to whom the country has given so much to try to dump on people who didn't go to college. Look at you. Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sonny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, it's or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that stuff's fine, I guess.
Awesome.
But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women in the sense of, waitresses and women that work for Amazon. And there's a lot of women delivery drivers. they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated. And I've said this for so long, and it's finally manifested, which is that it is laced into how we do our public opinion polling. And she played into it perfectly, because I've said this for a decade, and finally I have a piece of evidence to show this more than anything else, that we look at how we elect our leaders in two buckets: stupid and smart. And the stupid people are the people that don't have a certificate from Yale, and the smart people are $200,000 in debt because they went to Drake. And so the breakdown, though, is that Donald Trump, which, by the way, is just smart politics, because there's more people that didn't go to college than did go to college. And I know that's really hard for the Democrats to realize, because everyone in their circle went to college, but the majority of the country actually does not have a 4-year college diploma. The majority of the country are people that have 2-year technical degrees or community college, or they just went into the workforce right out of high school. And so Donald Trump gave these people a voice because they're tired of being told that they're stupid just because they didn't go into debt to go study something that doesn't matter, to find jobs that don't exist. And these people, by the way, Megyn, both men and women, we call them, as I said, the muscular class. They are the ones that kept the economy alive to great personal risk for themselves and their family during COVID. They're the ones that delivered you your Uber Eats for 3 months on straight, while you in the laptop class were able to keep on doing your job by opening your laptop in the comfort of your home, while the Amazon trucks were still delivered and the supply chain went uninterrupted. Those people have felt belittled. They have felt talked down to. And Donald Trump communicated with them better than any candidate since Ronald Reagan in 1988. And the final point I'll say is this, is Sonny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue? I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying, though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megyn. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more, and good for them.
By the way, Sunny Hostin, I think, went to Notre Dame. Her son's at Harvard. Her daughter's at Cornell. She's married to the Ivy League. And that's why she looks down on everyone else as a bunch of stupid losers who didn't vote the right way because they're not as smart as she is. I spent many years across from Sunny Hostin on the set of Bill O'Reilly. She is not as smart as she thinks she is. In fact, I defy you to show me one debate we ever had that she won. There isn't one. So I'm not done with the Charlie Kirk homage.
Oh, boy.
We put together a little bit of you on your college tour just so the audience can see some of the hard work you were doing. Let's play shot 1.
Can you tell me her greatest accomplishment?
No, I can't.
Can you tell me a single accomplishment?
I cannot. I want to leave.
What is Kamala Harris's greatest accomplishment?
The Holocaust. Could you please explain why under a Trump presidency would be more beneficial to me than a Harris presidency?
I want to try to win you over as a liberal for Donald Trump.
Why should I vote for Trump?
There's no guesswork in this election. We know the type of president that Trump was and that he will be. There are 3 things I want you to think about when voting for Trump. Home ownership, border, war. 3 objective things.
When I decide, just in case, can I have a hat?
You can have a hat. So which way are you leaning?
Can I get a hat?
That's a good answer. How are you leaning this election?
Well, after what you said, Trump.
Let's go!
All right, and 2 points on that, Charlie. So we had a bunch of kids from my son's high school here with me in studio on election night, and maybe 15 of them, and they were all Trump supporters. Where there was no screening, we're only taking the Trump supporters, but it just happened to be how it worked out. And that third point, war, was a big one for all of them. They're actually really worried about this neocon strain in the Democrat Party because they're the ones who are going to have to go fight it. And so you were tapping into exactly the right thing. And then one other cue point, my kids are in school all day and therefore do not listen to my show every day. They listen to it here and there, and they get clips on social media. And we were talking this week about who I had coming on today, and I told him, Charlie Kirk. And my son and my daughter, she's 13, he's 15, go, you know Charlie Kirk? I'm like, yes, I know Charlie Kirk. Yes. Oh, could we meet Charlie Kirk? I'm like, I think I could arrange it at some point. But that's how young, you're like a 13-year-old girl. She's seen your clips. She's been influenced by you. They watched you on that show. Where do they surround you and you debate all the people? Jubilee. They watched you there.
That was something.
I mean, you're making a huge difference, not just in today's voters, but in the next up-and-coming ones who are going to be voting 4 years from now, Charlie. It's huge. I do feel there's something divine going on. You were chosen for some reason.
Well, I'm humbled. And I said this, well, thank you, Megyn. And I'd love to meet your kids. And I said this on election night. God gave us grace as a nation. I'm humbled by it. I say, praise God. I'm just a small part, and he used what we were doing. I mean this. I had zero expectation that what we were going to do was actually going to move the dial this much. We did it out of obedience. We did it out of, hey, let's play the role. You know what it's like on a campaign, right, Megyn? Oh, if we can move, a couple hundred people and do your part and it all adds up. I had no idea that this thing was going to set off the way it did. And I mean, we look at these youth vote numbers. It's not normal. It's the best performance by a Republican since 1988. And allow me to say one other thing about the youth vote that I think you'll really appreciate, Megyn, which is the Democrats underestimated how much pent-up rebellion energy was there because of how they were treated and lied to during COVID and the political correct regime that coupled with COVID. So they lost proms, graduations, they had to wear masks, they were on Zoom class, and then during it, they were propagandized with the most ferocious, aggressive, misleading left-wing propaganda on race, on sexuality, on gender, on America that we've ever seen. And so now, 4 years later, this Gen Z was like, you know what? You guys in charge, the same people that were trying to lock up Trump, you guys materially messed up my life, and I don't like you. And I think the Democrats misread the vibe. For all about, they're about the vibe. They misread it. And we happened to read the room. We saw it. And again, these kids were disproportionately punished for doing nothing wrong during COVID for extended periods of time. And the Democrats just shrugged their shoulders. Oh, kids will get over it. Think about it, Megyn. You remember probably years 13 through 17 more than years 23 through 27. Those are your formative years. And they were robbed by these kids, from these kids. And so we played into that in the best possible way. And Donald Trump became this ascendant symbol of we're going to take back the country so that you can have a better future. And as I said at almost every campus stop, you guys represent the first generation since George Washington to have it worse off than your parents. It is a breakdown of the social contract. You are the most depressed, anxious, suicidal, drug addicted, psychiatric drug addicted, alcohol addicted generation in history. You guys deserve better. We do politics basically for one reason, to leave a better future for our kids. I mean, all the other stuff is fine, but that's really why we do this, right? So that you can keep this beautiful experiment going. And we failed in that. And this next generation had a say to try to make sure that they could also have access to the American dream like their parents. And they spoke decisively. And every Democrat right now is scratching their head, going through precinct by precinct, wondering why their safe spots of college campuses like Dane County, Wisconsin, like Center County, Pennsylvania, like Arizona State, like University of Arizona in Tucson, why they moved 20 to 25 points in Donald Trump's direction.
It's amazing. Just the right combination of recognizing what the issues were as created by the Democrats, and then getting in there and doing the work to exploit them, to reach out to these kids to say, let me give you the proper framework for it. I feel like that's half of what I do on this show. Let me give you the framework for what's being done to you right now, because they just take out their fire hose and they train it on you. And most people are just like on their heels, getting completely pummeled by the fire hose of information about what terrible people they are and why they have to believe boys can become girls or whatever your issue is. And it does help to have somebody like you go on and say, let me put in perspective what you're feeling, like the stuff about the anxiety. That's not normal. You don't have to live like this. This has been done to you. I do want to show you something that's happening on college campuses, a few things. But before I move on to that, this is worth playing. At the moment Trump announced, or that it was announced that Trump won SOT 3, and Charlie's reaction.
Let's go.
There it is.
Everybody should remember this moment. Look, I'm gonna echo Charlie from earlier. Remember where you were when this happened. Remember where you were when you realized that the Uniparty and all of these, just the establishment, you said it's time to actually participate. And look what you guys have done.
And if anyone deserves to get tears in his eyes, it's Charlie. I think we all agree.
I think Erica was chopping some onions or something in the break room.
No one has worked harder than Charlie for this.
We gotta hear some words here from you, Charlie. You put all this together, my man. Let's hear it.
I am just humbled by God.
It's all good. It's all good.
Aw, that is emotional to watch. I share your feeling, Charlie. I felt it that night too.
I just, I was humbled and blown away because throughout this entire thing, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. And I'm sure you agree, Megyn. I said, there's no way they're gonna let us do this. That something's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And again, call it paranoia, call it just trying to be ahead of the curve. And I'm sitting in a seat right here where I saw Trump got shot. And like they tried to kill him and indict him. And it's like at every turn, I'm like, here we go. The regime is striking back, right? And it's just, you don't think you're actually going to get there because we've been programmed to just say that like powerful people get what they want, right? And he was 1 millimeter from this whole country just going into bedlam. And what if one of these trials would have went differently, right? What if Jack Smith would have rushed his cases and like a million different things, right? And there you go, and you hear the words that Donald Trump is president-elect. I just, again, glory be to God is all I can say, because I believe there's a divine element. I asked the question, is God done with this land? I don't think he is. I think that the evil that what we would see that you've covered of this butchery of children is going to come to an end. This evil of allowing men and female sports is going to come to an end. And we were blessed to play a small role.
In that moment, I had two of those moments like you on election night where they called it for him, and these boys from the high school were on the other side of the camera for me. And even more than my own reaction was their reaction that really got me, where they were some of them did what you did, like face into the hands. Some of them did arms up. It was like this with the hands behind the head. Like they were so relieved. You could feel the palpable relief and just exaltation, just that they weren't going to have to go on in the way that they've been going. And we, as you know, are at a non-woke school. That is why we're there. I mean, we fled a woke school and found the right school for us. So they're not getting it over the head, but they get it from society. And even if you find a good school for your kids, they get it from society. They get it from TV. They get it from the movies they watch. They now get it from sports. You cannot avoid the negative messages that are coming down to especially young men, and they felt it acutely. And the second moment, Charlie, was something you hit on in your answer, which was that night it hit that the DOJ was dropping its appeal in Mar-a-Lago case against Trump and dropping its J6 case against Trump because of their policy not to prosecute a sitting president. And I was sitting on here with the National Review guys and with Maureen Callahan, all of whom I love. And for me, having done so much on the lawfare, I almost couldn't catch my breath. It was like, I can't even talk. I felt like you felt in that clip, like I can't talk. I need just a minute. Like, who could put into perspective the Herculean task it was for Trump to just get through those 4 cases, not to mention the civil. I mean, total and utter victory over very evil people.
And I want to say, and I saw this firsthand, I hope your audience understands at every one of these charges, he had to have like a 2-hour meeting with lawyers about details about it, right? You know how it is, Megyn, right? The strain that it took on him physically and mentally, where lawyers would come in with binders of stuff. Well, the government's accusing you of this. And then after that, Megyn, he has to go on a plane and go give 3 speeches in Iowa, right? He's got to get on a plane and go give, a town hall and a podcast. And that, I think, was one of the reasons they did it, because they said, if nothing else, we'll be able to weigh this man down, right? We'll be able to slow him down and mess him up. And we might be, and he was in a courtroom back in May on a total Soviet show trial. I want your audience to just appreciate that. I know they locked up a candidate with the inability to campaign for weeks. And then Fani Willis did what she did. And
one other word on that. One other word on the New York trial. Let's not forget, this is another piece of it. They humiliated him. That judge worked together with the prosecution to let in as many embarrassing details as Stormy Daniels could spew in her moments on the stand to humiliate him. Not to mention the mugshot down in Atlanta. They did their level best to try to make a fool out of him. I mean, all of it was just so infuriating. There's still, you got the New York judge who's still like, he could be sentenced to go to jail. Okay, that's happening, I think, November 26th. But it was just a complete rout, Charlie, just a complete rout there's something almost but like almost superhuman in the way Trump handled all of it.
I cringe when some people say things a little more extreme than that, but I do believe that there was a divine element of the hand of God on him. And look, I have a lot of energy. I'm on like 4 hours of sleep right now. I've traveled with him. This guy gets 3 hours of sleep, and he gets up with tons of life force and energy. He'll take, by the way, just so everyone understands, before a MAGA rally, he takes 120 pictures. He will do a roundtable. He will speak for 40 minutes with friends. And then he goes and gives a 2-hour speech. And then he goes off and then holds court on the plane. As one of my friends on the campaign, Taylor, would say, I'd joke around, Taylor Bundowich, great guy. And I said, hey, Taylor, he's really sweet. I joked around because I would go to some of these events, and we hosted 2 of them for Trump a week out. And I said, hey, you getting some sleep on the plane? He said, Charlie, it's Trump Force One. I'm not, no one's sleeping on the plane.
There's no sleep.
No, he said literally when Trump is done, he says, I want the latest polling. How are we doing? How are we raising money? Get me on the phone with this guy. How's the senator doing? How's Ted Cruz doing? Should we do a truth? So, everybody, he ended his campaign. He got wheels down at 5 a.m. in Palm Beach on election day. 5 a.m. And on the flight down from Grand Rapids to Palm Beach, he's like, okay, is anyone waiting in the polls in line? How are we doing? How's the election integrity effort? They have not slept for 3 straight days. And Trump is like holding a session at 40,000 feet. You would think that finally to be like, okay. And
yes.
I've never seen anything like it.
No, what did we do? We went and we met him in Pittsburgh. I brought the whole family. That was Monday night. We got home by midnight, 12 after midnight, or 15 after, went to sleep. We were exhausted the next day. The next morning, my kids were like, what do you think Trump's doing? And I was like, they were like, do you think he's sleeping? I said, absolutely not. He's definitely not sleeping. He's awake. And then, Trump, of course, did it again. And he had rally after rally and stayed up late. I don't know how he does it. I do want to show you this. Having brought up the New York trial and how jubilant you are feeling, and so am I, not everyone feels that way. I give you Michael Cohen, who held a little live stream on TikTok, and he's enabled it in such a way that allows the people watching it to put like graphics on the screen, and then he charges them for it. So I guess this is how he makes money now. And it was wonderful. If you're listening to this right now, my friends, you've got to go to youtube.com, go to about 35 after the hour, and look at this video. Watch this.
No problem. Wow. Genius you are. Can we stop with that?
It's a turkey.
I appreciate it. I don't like the stupid turkeys. All right, let's just knock
They
that
won't
stupid
stop.
shit off, please. All right. I did. I said I was leaving, and then the following day, get that through your dumb heads. The following day, I turned around and I said that there's no chance in the world that I'm leaving my country. Thank you very much. All right? I'm not leaving anywhere. You leave. This is my country. And I have every right, every single right within which to turn around when we stop so we can. All right, 2 seconds. I'm going to end up blocking this idiot.
Charlie. God bless the people.
That's just good. By the way, that's probably some 19-year-old on TikTok. God bless him.
Yes.
That is just trolling Michael.
He's
I
part
love
of the
it.
team.
I love it. Oh,
Okay.
that's as good as it gets.
So that's Michael Cohen, but we were talking about the universities. That's incredible. This is turkey. For the listening audience, it's like a turkey. It's like a cooked turkey, butter-based, cooked, nice brown turkey with a big hole in the middle of it. It's like its little legs pointing down and its body all around his head. Okay, we're talking about universities and what these kids have been dealing with, the nonsense that goes on these campuses. And there's a great example of it today. There is someone at the University of Oregon. He is the assistant director for fraternity and sorority life, and he's not taking Trump's victory very well. Look at SOT 32.
I'm done crying. My sadness is over. My anger has set in. I am a very petty person, and I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually. And so I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go fuck yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, get a better fucking paying job. Do better in life. Get a fucking education. Do something. Because you are fucking stupid. And I hope you go jump off of a fucking bridge.
So the university responded after it hit the Daily Mail that this is a post made on his own time, which is well within his rights to suggest that all of his students should go kill themselves. Just fine. Didn't cross any lines. Wait just a few hours until the blowback hits. And now there is an update. The school has placed him on administrative leave and opened an investigation into the matter.
Yep.
As a public university, we take our duty seriously to provide an environment that welcomes diversity of thought and respect in alignment with our educational mission, said the spokesperson.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week, and we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine. And priority, like numero uno, is we're getting all that Title IX stuff fixed, and we're getting that all cleaned up.
Yes.
We're going to get it. We're getting it done. And there's a lot more there, by the way. There's a lot of DEI, CRT, garbage that has come into the Department of Education. Also, we need to say, by the way, this is very important. I will push for President Trump and try to persuade him. We're going to end all affirmative action and hiring practices, is my hope, in federal government hiring. We're going to make it merit-based. And these colleges are still doing affirmative action against the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So I hope the Department of Education does some investigations into that. And look, the way it needs to work from this point forward, in my personal and humble opinion, again, I'm not in charge. I'm just going to try to convince people of that and use whatever platform I have, is that federal funding should not continue to schools if you have lunatics like this. Done. The next time a professor like this comes out, there should be a call from whoever the cabinet secretary of education is, say, hey, your funding is suspended until this professor is fired, and it better not continue. And also, DEI, CRT, and Black-only dormitories will not be tolerated and will not be subsidized by the federal government. And
right on.
Again, I will say this, and I don't want to get too into the future because I want to just continue to celebrate because we earned it. However, I am so encouraged, Megyn, based on how the Trump team is. They are saying this phrase over and over again: fulfill the mandate, fulfill the mandate. And boy, there's a team of all-stars coming together that I think is going to make a lot of people happy. We are going to sprint out of the gate. There will be a lot of reversals and also a return to common sense and order and decency. So I'm thrilled, and Susie Wiles is a phenomenal pick to do that. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much on that. I'm just saying
that's thrilling.
The Department of Education is definitely going to be a focal point of ours.
Can you talk about Susie Wiles? Because she ran Trump's campaign. She used to work for DeSantis. It didn't end particularly well. Then she moved over to Team Trump, and they made history. So now she's going to be his chief of staff, which I don't know her well, but I like the idea of somebody who was able to manage, I'm using air quotes, Trump, as well as anybody can, quote, manage Trump, right? Like, I think outside of Melania, almost nobody can do that, right? But like, I know she kept him in, like, between the bumpers for, I would say, at least 80% of his campaign, which is an amazing feat. So what do you expect from her?
Well, first of all, she's spectacular. Let me tell you two things that I think are important. Number one is she never, ever tried to manipulate Trump on who he talked to, how he was receiving information, which is something every other chief of staff or person prior in that role would do. They'd try to cut off access. They said, look, it's the president's prerogative. He could do what he wants to do. She would remain so consistent with that, which was awesome. At the same time, she was able to organize a very diverse cast of characters to be able to get towards this mission. But let me tell you why I really have respect for Susie Wiles. If we would have lost Megyn, Susie Wiles almost assuredly would have gone to federal prison. Let's just be honest. Anybody close to Trump would have, and they'll think about it, and she knew that. She risked her entire professional career, which was an excellent one. She risked her entire life because there would have been a revenge campaign, which either they would have gone to her to go rat on Trump or whatever, right, on fake stuff. And someone who is willing to risk that, given the lawfare state, is someone who is deserving of being a White House chief of staff. Not someone on the outside. She put it all on the line for her country because everyone enters Trump orbit, and myself included, and Elon, we kind of knew that if things wouldn't go our way, all of our get out the vote, all of our organizations were going to come under incredible scrutiny. You know how it is. I mean, these people, as they would say in the video, petty, and they want to eliminate and they want to try to turn the country into one-party rule like California. So Susie Wiles knew the stakes. I want everyone to understand this. Susie Wiles leaned in when Donald Trump received the Mar-a-Lago raid. She leaned in when Donald Trump received the January 6 indictments. How many people in politics would do that? There was no hedging. There was no backup plan. She said, we're going to win this thing. We are going to go get this thing done. And she was unfazed, focused like a heat-seeking missile to get Donald Trump back in the White House. And so that speaks to her character, her tenacity. And let's be honest, until we get the FBI figured out, they're going to try to do Peter Strzok Smirk Crossfire Hurricane again. And I said this to the team yesterday. I said, guys, first couple days of the administration, don't be surprised if an FBI agent shows up again like Peter Strzok and tries to get you guys to say something, and he does a 302, and next thing you know, they try to Michael Flynn you again. Yeah. Susie Wiles will never turn on Donald Trump. They will, and other people that were being contemplated, I don't know, but Susie Wiles will remain loyal to the country and to Trump, and also she's wicked smart.
Well, that's the thing. He's had chief of staffs who are out there thinking that they know better than Trump, that they need to like control Donald Trump. It's like at this point, the man is owed some deference. His instincts have proven very, very apt. And I think she understands that she's in a supporting role. She's not there to usurp his power. She's there to help him channel it in whatever way he deems best. She wasn't elected president. I'm not saying she thinks that. I'm just saying he's had some past chiefs of staff, as we've seen in the late phase of this election, who just feel they know better. They thought they knew better than Trump, that they somehow had earned a mandate to govern, and they hadn't. I want to spend our remaining time on 2 points. One, there's buzz in the political rags today and by political pundits like this guy Bakari Sellers over on CNN, though he's not the only one, suggesting the move in the next couple of months is, well, I'll let him tell it to you. Here, watch.
Is you have a hell of a vice president right there who has a legal pedigree to sit on the Supreme Court, and let Republicans go crazy and ape. I'm even mentioning that option.
Did Bakari Sellers just float Vice President Kamala Harris as a potential Supreme Court nominee?
Not only am I floating it, but I want to stir up everything. I want people's heads to explode this morning so we go into the weekend just knowing that the chaos has not ended just yet.
What do you make of that idea?
Well, yeah. Are they talking about packing the court? So adding?
No, they're saying
okay.
Force Sotomayor out, force her not to pull a Ginsburg. They're saying she's not in great health. She's 70, but she's got diabetes. And they were saying she's dealing with some personal things. She should step down because you never know what could happen in 4 years of Trump. And he should put Harris in there while they still control the Senate.
You know why I think that's hilarious? Could Kamala Harris get through open air cross-examination of Senate testimony? I would love to hear. Hey, Kamala Harris, have you ever prosecuted a case? Kamala Harris, which McDonald's did you work at?
Right.
Now,
Also,
if they
I'd love to hear, you were such a champion, madam, when you cross-examined Brett Kavanaugh for a role in the U.S. Supreme Court. I know that female abuse of any kind is deeply important to you. Let's talk about this Daily Mail piece, which was backed up by the woman's first-person testimonial and by independent witnesses. Should we have any concerns that your husband, the husband of a potential Supreme Court justice, is a woman abuser, madam? I just want to hear that.
No, exactly. And I find it unlikely that Joe Manchin on his way out will even put up with this, and Kyrsten Sinema, because remember, they're at 51 Senate seats and they're running out of time because remember, the Senate actually gets sworn in early January ahead of the presidential inauguration. So I find this very unlikely because they also have to pass a spending bill that they would do this. If they do it, though, I mean, we'll be ready for it. I will say that if Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, I find that to be low likely. But can we also just celebrate, guys? We took the United States Senate, which is amazing. McCormick's race is over, despite what Mark Elias is saying. 53
He's
Senate
the lawyer
seats,
representing Bob Casey, trying to challenge McCormick's win, which gives Republicans 53 seats. Keep going.
Yeah, Carrie Lake's race is not done. She still has a little bit of a climb to go, so I wouldn't say she's the favorite, but there's still over 850,000 votes to count, and she's down 43,000 votes. So anyone that does math can tell you that that is not over at all, and there's still a lot of Trumpy votes left there. And so that would be amazing to get to 54. But yeah, look, the Democrats have been displaced from power, and what I will say, though, is that Donald Trump, working with this Senate, I wouldn't be surprised if Alito and Clarence Thomas respectfully step aside and we get two young guns there to kind of just allow them the respect that they are due, but also get a couple 40-somethings that love the Constitution that we can then cement.
They're going to be tough to recreate. I mean, with all the respect to Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett and Gorsuch, they are not Alito and Thomas. You need deep-seated conservatives.
Ones, and mind you, this is the key of having 53 Senate seats, is that you can lose now Murkowski and Collins, and you're at 51, and you could lose even one more, and Mr. J.D. Vance is now a tiebreaker. So you could get all the way down to 50, which is amazing. Again, I would hate to see Clarence Thomas leave the court. I would hate to see Alito, but if you want to play the long game, I think them stepping down
Charlie? They love
might be wise.
The country. They are
they do. They would do it. And by the way, they would have more fun. And
they got
would have a ton
reversed.
of fun.
They've done so much. I just feel like I would like them to stay just a little longer, just until we get some of the trans cases that are working their way up
for sure.
heard right by this court. We're out of time. I know we got to go, so I'll save the discussion on alternative media and its role for the next time, because that's another great one to dig into. Charlie Kirk, you're a miracle worker. Congrats! I'm so in awe of you.
God is a God of miracles, and we serve a great God, and the best days are ahead now, Megyn. I've never been, and I'll just close it. I know we have to go. I said, what country am I living in at times? And it turns out I'm living in a pretty awesome country.
Oh, good luck over the next weeks. I'm thrilled you're involved. All the best.
Thank you. God bless.
Oh, yay. Such a joyous time, isn't it? It's so nice to take in the news and just feel happy. I don't know about you, but I'm loving it. To steal a tagline from the place Kamala Harris never worked. Okay, we'll be right back. The October 15th tax deadline has come and gone. Are you prepared for what's coming? Do you owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Missed the deadline to file for an extension? Now that October 15th is behind us, the IRS may be ramping up enforcement. You could face wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, or even property seizures if you haven't taken action yet. But there's hope. Tax Network USA has helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt and has filed over 10,000 tax returns. They specialize in helping people reduce their tax burdens. So visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000 for a free consultation. Their experts will walk you through a few simple questions to see how much you could save. Give it a try now before the IRS takes more aggressive steps. Take control and visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000. I wanted to talk through some of the big stories of this week post-election. Now, I just want to tell you what has gone on here at the MK Show over the past few hours. We were going to do Glenn Greenwald and then Charlie Kirk, but Glenn wasn't able to join us because he isn't feeling well. So we had the most hilarious miscommunication on my team about this morning that you must know about. Steve Krakauer and Glenn have given me permission to share this with you. So Steve has a dog in Dallas, Texas, where he lives, who had to have emergency surgery this week and hasn't been doing that well. And so I knew that he and his wife are dealing with their sick dog, and we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And then this morning, he had mentioned something in passing that Glenn wasn't feeling well separately, Glenn Greenwald, and that we weren't sure if he was going to be able to make air. And we said, okay, that's fine. So I kind of forgot about that information on Glenn. And then Steve sends me a text this morning on our group text chain that reads, Glenn is out, chest infection. We'll prep some more for your block, which we will record whenever. And I thought Glenn was the name of his dog. I thought he was telling me his dog didn't make it. I forgot all about Glenn being sick. And I wrote, oh no, get out of here. We've got this. Go. So sorry, Steve. And he responded with, wait, sorry, Glenn Greenwald, I'm saying, is out for today. I wrote back, oh Lord, I thought Glenn was your dog. He said, no. Haha, sorry, that's Lexi. They did take her spleen out, but she's doing okay. And then we're all dying. We're all crying. Everybody texts back, I'm dying. Look at Lexi. She's okay. She's got the big dog collar on you get after the spay or neutering. She's going to make it. So her name is not Glenn. She's Lexi. She's fine. And in even better news, Glenn Greenwald is fine too. He does need the day off, but thank God he's fine too. Do you ever have one of those with your friends where you're just like total chew? And meanwhile, we were laughing about like how callous Steve was. Like if it really was his dog. Glenn out. Glenn out. Chest infection. Wow. Harsh. Jeez. Okay. But good luck with your grieving. Anyway, everyone's fine. And you're stuck with me for the 1 hour. I want to start with what's happening over on the left as they are in a full panic. They don't know why they lost. Like the fingers are all like this. It seems like Kamala Harris's team thinks it's Joe Biden's fault. Joe Biden's team thinks it's Kamala Harris's fault. There's another pocket of Dems that think it's just, market circumstances and the Biden policies that got us into this hole. There's another group that's saying global circumstances. A lot of incumbents are losing globally, and it's all due to COVID. Meanwhile, he wasn't actually the president who was in there when COVID broke out. He was just the one who ruined everything after it did. And then there's a very, very small pocket of Democrats that seems to be saying, do you think it's us, Stephen? Like, is it possible that it's us? I don't know. It might be us. And then there's the pocket of Democrats that's turning on that last pocket. Like, how dare you? How dare you say it's us? F you. That's your racism and your misogyny and your transphobia speaking. which is super fun for me because it shows they're not going to change and they're going to keep losing. That pocket of the Democrat Party that just won't move on identity politics is a cancer from within that is going to make them lose elections from now to forevermore. I mean, either they will remove that pocket, they will excise it like the cancer that it is from their party, or they will be brought down by said cancer as it metastasizes throughout the Democratic body. Either way, our side wins. The normals, we win. And I know, because I know who watches the show. I know I am speaking to Democrats who have left the party because of this nonsense, or who are still in the party, but begrudgingly because they're pro-choice or what have you on other issues. So I do describe us as the normal side. It's not just the right that I'm talking to here. It's the normies, like normal people who think, there's a Mr. Rogers video that just got tweeted out by libs of TikTok, who think as Mr. Rogers did, boys stay boys, oh, forever. Girls stay girls forever too. And on all the other stuff. Maybe we'll cue that up so you can listen to Fred Rogers do it instead of me. I'm going to start off with Julie Roginski. I worked with her at Fox News. She's a Democrat. She's more of a centrist. And she's one of the Dems who are in that penultimate group I talked about saying, maybe it's us. Like maybe we've gone too far. And then, of course, getting the backlash for saying that. But take a listen to her. I believe this was today, SOT 4.
I'm going to speak some hard truths to my friends in the Democratic Party. This is not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Kamala Harris's fault. It's not Barack Obama's fault. It is the fault of the Democratic Party in not knowing how to communicate effectively to voters. We are not the party of common sense, which is what the message that voters sent to us. We address Latino voters as Latinx, for instance, because that's the politically correct thing to do. It makes them think that we don't even live on the same planet as they do. When we put pronouns after names and say she, her, as opposed to saying, you know what, if I call you by the wrong pronoun, call me out, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But stop with the virtue signaling and just speak to people like they're normal. But that's not what Democrats do. We constantly try to parse out different ways of speaking to different cohorts because our focus groups or our polling shows that so-and-so appeals to such and such. That's not how normal people think. It's not common sense. No, it's not. She was right, except for the last part in there where she was saying, if I say the wrong pronoun, call me out. No, don't call me out. You should make it obvious for me what your pronoun is. And if you don't, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of my stepping on the wrong one. Sorry, I'm not doing pronouns. And if I use the one that you look like, if I happen to go with your gender identity, then good on you. You fooled me. And if I go with what my eyes and my instincts tell me, then too bad. But whatever. She's trying to speak sense to her side, and I appreciate that. But there is very good reason to believe it's not going to happen. She can't convince these people. They're too rabid, and they are deeply, deeply rabid. You tell me how she is going to get through to the likes of Joy Reid. Now, I'm going to play you an old soundbite of Joy Reid's. She hasn't changed a bit from this, but this is Joy Reid after Kyle Rittenhouse. I can't remember whether this was after he was acquitted or it must have been after he was arrested or just found himself in the news. But I remember the clip so well because she was mocking white tears. This woman is a raging racist. Race is everything to her. She hates white people, and she has one of the most prominent positions on the dying industry of cable news primetime. But she does have one of the most prominent positions on it. Take a listen to SOT 21.
There's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like green waterworks.
Poor... Who's crying now, Joy? How you feeling this week? Your laughter at all the white tears. Guess what? Whites and blacks and Latinos just flipped you off. No one is buying into your version of identity politics and reducing everything to race essentialism and all the nonsense anymore. You've lost, and your entire belief system has been rejected by the vast majority of the American people. Maybe you'll go home and cry about it, and I'll laugh at your tears. It's just absurd. That's what Julie Roginski is up against. The Joy Reids of the world, the Sunny Hostins of the world. She's still railing on. We played this for you, but listen to SOT 15.
Finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock,
misogyny,
knock.
sexism.
Who's there? Oh my gosh, it's Whoopi.
Misogyny. See, I love this. I think this is great news for the normies, because those people cannot be convinced out of their sick ideology. And so, again, they'll lose every election from now until they get ostracized out of the party altogether. I mean, and then there's the true radical left, who's gone beyond all the identity issues. I mean, don't get me wrong. The person I'm going to show you is 100% wrapped in all of them, but like genuinely believes the Hitler fascist stuff, like is like distraught because they really think Hitler just got reelected. Most of them were just pretending, but then there are the ones who genuinely believe it, like AOC. Take a listen to AOC in SOT 26.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. Let's say peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
One of the most prominent Democrats in America. She's gone. I don't know what's going to happen to AOC. Her district went more than double digits to the right in this election. She may have a very limited time left. And there was talk about AOC becoming a senator. It's not going to happen. New York, the state of New York, never mind the city, which is the most blue part of New York, moved double digits to the right. She's not going to be a senator. What the Democrat Party needs right now to save itself is moderates, normal Democrats, like the ones who listen to this show sometimes. I know. I hear from you. I read the emails. If you want to send me one, it's Megyn at MegynKelly.com. And some are my friends. Some of my friends are still Democrats, and they're listening to me right now, and they know I absolutely adore them. They don't know what's happened to their party. They're not on board with all this shit. They may play along here and there, but they're not on board with all this shit, and they don't want this nonsense. So they certainly don't believe that fascism lies. You know, they're normal Democrats who are like pro-choice, and they're really worried about the environment. And they think the Democrats, at least the Democrat Party of old, used to be better for them on tax policy. It used to, Mitt Romney's party would favor more, they thought, the rich and tax cuts and not them, with social safety net programs. Everything's done. That's all done. That's yesterday. That's yesteryear. It's a new day. And that is why today and yesterday, we've seen Bernie Sanders all over the news saying things like, is it any wonder that the Democrats lost the working class after years of abandoning it and not caring at all about it? And now they're really just hand-wringing over how are we going to win elections with only the smart people? It's going to be really hard. It was a lot easier when we had the dumb ones. That's how they view the working class. I mean, speaking of Sunny Hostin, you saw that yesterday. They're uneducated. You know, it's great when they vote for us, but they're dumb. And it was wonderful because we could just fool them right into voting for us. But now somehow they've been wrested away from us by this maniac, Donald Trump. There is a group that's trying to convince themselves that really what the problem is here is not anything I listed in those first, 5 possibilities that the Dems are throwing out there as their problem, but a right-wing media system that has risen up to deliver misinformation in the deep, dark corners of the internet. We're hearing this more and more. It happened the night Trump won. Jen Psaki threw it out there. She would not be the only one, but this is one we have on camera. We've got it here somewhere. You guys know the one I'm looking for. Jen Psaki, Monday night. Take a listen.
And finally, let me just end with this. Our democracy is strong, and the American people are fierce. But even if Trump is defeated tomorrow, he has exposed during his time out there some serious limitations within our system. And it may be time to ask ourselves things like whether social media platforms should have the freedom to operate at a lower level of accountability than local television networks in terms of the lies they can spread, or whether the Electoral College alone is the right way to determine who should lead this country, or whether, just putting it out there, a convicted felon should be eligible to run for the highest office in the land. Those are some really important questions. At some point, we will need to consider, but there's plenty of time for that. Those questions are not for tomorrow. Tomorrow is about answers. It's about finally learning how much protecting our democracy matters, whether morality and character matter, whether our rights to make choices about our own bodies matter enough to enough of the American people. Tomorrow, we will start to learn a whole lot more.
Dora, social media platforms, those are the problem. And of course, what she's speaking about is podcasts like the one you're listening to now, and most particularly X. Elon Musk bought Twitter, and they don't control it anymore, even though they have leftists controlling Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube. However, it's not enough. Rumble allows conservative thought uncensored. X allows conservative thought uncensored. And don't be mistaken, X has had a massive influence on changing the conversation because it just allowed it to flourish. And when conservative ideas are allowed to flourish, they often tend to win. Not always, but often. And on some of the insanity being pushed on us by people like Dora Psaki, we always win because her side speaks nonsense. White women's tears. Joy Reid, no one wants to listen to that. Just give her a platform, allow more people to see it by making that viral on X, and she loses like the loser she is, and to quote Trump, has been for a long time. Rosie's a loser. She's been a loser for a long time. Okay, so that was Psaki the night before the election. I'll give you a couple more because this is growing on the left. Here's Salon, which is just a left-wing rag, but this is Sabrina Hockey's hot take. This is a lawyer, 25-year federal trial lawyer, First and 14th Amendment defense. Okay, so she says the following. It's more complicated than Americans seemingly embracing a known monster. That's true, but it's more complicated than that. Someone who sells political violence and hatred. She says the truth here is that Trump supporters in the U.S. consume right-wing propaganda far more than the rest of the country, which means they were either not informed about Trump's sinister plans, or Fox and Musk succeeded in scaring them with a fire hose of Harris disinformation. I mean, if only there were a way for the left wing and Democrats to get their messaging out to people. How could they get past this evil propaganda being pushed on them by Fox and Musk? How on earth could they get their message out to the electorate? Could it be CBS, NBC, and ABC, and CNN and MSNBC, and the BBC? I could go on. The New York Times and Politico and USA Today. Is it the Washington Post, the San Francisco Chronicle? What? The Star Tribune? How could they ever? Oh, wait. They control All of those outlets. Maybe they could have, I don't know, it's going to be tough to find some Hollywood actor other than like Gary Sinise and, John Voight come out, Dennis Quaid. Like, how are they ever going to get past those Hollywood stars to get their message? This is absurd. Do we have to go back to the Oprah Roundtable? Meryl Streep, Madam President. Vice President. I know you're going to win. I know you're going to win. Her little love notes to Kamala Harris with her stupid, I've met with chancellors and kings and prime ministers and presidents. Oh, you're so important. Oprah. Like, they control that entire industry that influences what we watch on the big screen, what we watch on the small screen, what comes into our homes, what comes in via YouTube as it gets its second or third life, what comes in via Netflix. I mean, do you remember Netflix after the whole BLM protests? If only they had a way of reaching us with their messages, for example, about how evil and racist America is. Has anyone heard that at all in the past 5 years? No, it's because of the damn right-wing ecosystem. They're deluded. Try to go to a basketball game back in 2020 without getting the BLM message shoved down your throat. How about all of corporate America that for the past 5+ years has been trying to earn a gold star pat on the head from Human Rights Campaign, which is a far-left organization trying to cut off the genitals of our children. Yes, you are. 100%. That's your new mission. And if a corporation isn't in favor of it, you give them a bad score. And it actually hurts their bottom line. And they've been bending the knee to you in response to your message, which is not from the right-wing ecosphere. The absurdity of this. Weaponized disinformation will ultimately kill the First Amendment, says this 25-year federal trial lawyer. We aren't hateful, she goes on. We're just misinformed. As I see it, Trump didn't win this election. Disinformation did. More specifically, the world's richest men funding disinformation will stop at nothing to end government regulations, taxes, and democracy itself. We aren't a hateful nation. We're a nation that's been lied to. So the problem is the rich people backed Trump. Okay, says the person on the team of the campaign that raised $1 billion in less than 3 months. $1 billion. Like that. I've told the story before, but Jeffrey Katzenberg, one of the richest men in America and one of the most important men in Hollywood, told me in 2016, I will spend every dime I have to get Hillary Clinton elected. There is no limit to the amount I will spend. And guess who was one of the chairs of Joe Biden's campaign? Jeffrey Katzenberg. How'd that work out? Their billionaires couldn't get it done because our working class people saw through their lies. So it must be the fault of the right-wing ecosystem that they're listening to. Enter Jen Psaki, the right-wing ecosystem, meaning social media apps, meaning X, and podcasting must be controlled. They must be controlled or we're going to keep losing. And you see how it's going? They're not the only ones. Listen to this person. It's PBS reporter Laura Barron Lopez on... Are they on CBS? Is this person on? They're on CNN. Yeah, she was on. This person was on CNN the other night. Listen.
Maybe it's not so much Democrats' policies or messaging or the words that they use specifically, but there is an entire right-wing media ecosystem that doesn't exist on the left, and it does not exist in the center or mainstream, and people are getting their information in very different ways now.
The right-wing media ecosystem is to blame. And this is why we have been asking people to go to megynkelly.com and just sign up, give us your email so that we have a direct relationship with our audience. I've said before, and I'll say again, we don't sell email lists. We're not doing that. It's so fucking annoying when your email gets sold to everybody because you're just trying to sign up with the product. We do not sell your email lists. And we are not trying to, we won't. We never bomb our audience with anything. You get one email from us a week if you want. And that's our American News Minute email on Fridays where we have all sorts of fun stuff. This week, by the way, you should sign up because we put in a bunch of behind the scenes photos from when I went and met with Trump on Monday night in Pittsburgh and some of the Trump family. there's like some really great stuff in there. Some behind the scenes photos from our set during the election night coverage. But anyway, you can sign up for that if you want by going to megynkelly.com. But just give us your email so we have a direct relationship with you, because we don't know what these lunatics are going to do. They're not in power, which is good. And we don't think they're going to take power in the House, which is good, but they might. We're just a little worried. And we are not trying to, like some people are exploiting this to try to get you to pay them. That's not us. We just want to make sure we have contact with our audience in case something happens, like on YouTube, which is not controlled by the government and is controlled by lefties. So far, we've been good with them, but I don't know what the future is going to bring. There's more and more of this talk about shutting down these so-called purveyors of different disinformation. And they're smearing these people, and we are some of them. Here is another one. I want to make sure I get this guy's name correct. Anand Giridharadas. And he was on MSNBC offering more of this nonsense today.
Particularly the media ecosystem it's not a good one, it's a negative one, it's a radicalization funnel. But what they have done in their online media ecosystem is build a radicalization engine, literally the way militant groups do around the world, that takes people from relatively low-level annoyances with the world. Why are eggs so expensive? Why is my kid learning this new thing in American history in school that I didn't learn? And then moves them through YouTube videos, through podcasts, moves them from that annoyance all the way slowly to a full-blown fascist politics. It's an elaborate multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, and there is nothing like it on the pro-democracy side. We don't have when a man is just lost and lonely and not yet radicalized, we don't have the equivalent of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson to move that man in a feminist direction. By the way, we should educate men that it's actually really great to live with a strong woman who makes money. It's actually easier. Life is easier.
But I think you're an idiot. You actually literally had Joe Rogan on your side up until recently. You're so dumb. Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter last time around. Your nonsense idiocy on these woke issues in particular moved him over to the side of the normies. He was norm before, but you guys became so radical. He said, I want no part of you. Same. I can totally relate. I was open-minded. I was never a feminist, but I certainly was listening on where women were in America. And then your absolute insanity radicalized me the other way, to stand up against you, to fight you with everything I have, because you're destructive and you're deeply, deeply wrong. And my standing up for female empowerment, which I've done my entire life, does not require me to shit all over American men. I'm sorry. But this is why I never called myself a feminist to begin with, because I knew what you leftists thought of feminism. It meant abortion and crapping on men. And most of us women over on the side of the normies don't want that. We love our husband. We love our boys, our sons, our dads, our brothers, our male friends and colleagues. And we are not ready to consider this a zero-sum game where we must advance at their expense. Until you get that through your thick fucking head, you'll keep losing. You will keep losing. And I look forward to watching your tears. She's like, Joy Reid, with your white tears. It's infuriating, but it's somewhat encouraging too, right? Like I said, they're going to keep losing. They're going to keep losing. That one really fired me up. He's so clueless. And now what we're seeing, in addition to all of this, is that there is a sizable portion, I don't know whether it's the majority, I don't know what size, but sizable, of these people who don't even believe any of the bullshit they've been pushing on us. They don't believe it. We heard Scarborough this week. We talked about that earlier, how he was like, there isn't a person who comes over for dinner who doesn't say, my college student doesn't feel like she can say anything. She's going to get canceled on our college campus. Where were you? Where were you fighting for her prior to losing your credibility? Yes, that happened long ago. But the election this week, where were you? And then revealing on Morning Joe, you know what really had effect in this election? The boys playing in girls' sports, right, 85% of America is against it. That really needs to stop. Where were you assholes when the rest of us were advocating for those girls? You know where you were? You were calling us transphobes. I've talked about this myself. I talked about, and as you guys know, I've had my own evolution on this. I was on the wrong side of this 10 years ago. Totally wrong side. And, I've bored you guys with a lot of that story. But there was a moment with Dr. Keith Abloh when he came on my show in 2012. Cher's daughter, Chastity Bono, was transitioning to, male in air quotes, and was on Dancing with the Stars. And Keith Abloh came on my show and said, I really don't think this is a good idea. I think there's a bit of a social contagion. I'm rephrasing what he said, but it's not smart to highlight this. And it wasn't about hating on trans people. It was about the more we celebrate this in the public eye, the more of it we're going to get. It's not something we should be encouraging. And I chastised him and said, we've had too much hate against trans people. It came from the heart. But I owe Dr. Abloh an apology. I've said this before, and I do apologize to him because he was right and I was wrong. And I want to hear that from Joe Scarborough and Willie Geist. It is not enough to say, gee, the lawn sign saying keep boys out of girls' sports did really well. Open your eyes. Argue, advocate for our girls. Do what's right instead of pandering to your leftist viewers who don't want to hear it. And that brings me to this guy you've probably never heard of before. Seth Moulton, Moulton. He's a congressman from Massachusetts, the 6th district, who went to Harvard University, happens to be a retired U.S. Marine who served 4 tours in Iraq. And for that, we thank him. This guy comes out and says the following. This is not on camera, is it, guys? This is just okay. This is a written statement. Okay. He says the following, quote, Democrats, this is in the wake of Kamala losing. Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, I first read this and thought, Seth, that's wonderful. Thank you for speaking the truth. Right. By the way, there's no such thing as formerly male. But okay, you're almost there. Welcome to Team Reason. Here he is. And then my team looked a little bit into Seth Moulton of Massachusetts, courtesy of The Hill, thehill.com, and found the following about this guy. You're not going to believe this. He hasn't just been quiet on the trans issue because he's afraid. He's been openly pushing it at every turn. He co-sponsored House Democrats' Transgender Bill of Rights, which, among other protections, reading here from The Hill, would guarantee trans athletes would guarantee them the right to participate in girl sports, in the sport of the team that matches their so-called gender identity. Moulton voted against the Protection of Women and Girls in Sport Act, which had sought to change Title IX to recognize sex as based solely on a person's genetics at birth. That's our side. He voted against it and voted affirmatively for the law that would mandate their entrance into girls' sports. Moulton and Tom Souza's 2024 campaigns were endorsed by the hateful Human Rights Campaign, which I just told you about. And Moulton is a member of the Congressional Equality Caucus, which promotes LGBTQ equality in the House and has condemned Republican-led legislation targeting transgender rights, including an effort to prohibit student athletes from competing on sports teams that align with their so-called gender identity. I have one more for you. In March of 2023, he posted on Instagram, this guy, Seth Moulton. With anti-trans bills passing across the U.S., let me be clear. This kind of hate fuels fear and violence and leads to thousands of suicides every year. That's a lie. We must continue to defend the rights of our transgender brothers, sisters, and friends everywhere. That's the same guy who issued this statement today in the wake of their loss on Tuesday. Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Seth Moulton, go F yourself. You fucking cretin. You created this problem. You put the legislation in place that hurt these little girls. Where is your damned apology? Where is your mea culpa? Where is your come to Jesus moment? I don't give a shit about your paper statement saying, oh, gee, my poor daughters, you screwed them. They're in danger because of you. It's your fault. Get out there and reverse this shit. My God, my potty mouth today. Forgive me. I just can't believe this. This is why it's so wonderful to now watch them suffer. Go down. You're going down. I hope and pray you soon get voted out of office. I know it doesn't look like it happened this time. I look forward to 2 years from now. And if I don't hear all of that from you, all of it, I am making a pledge to personally make donations to some centrist Democrat. I assume you're from some blue district in which a Republican couldn't win, but I'll look into it. And I will actively campaign against you when you have to run again in 2 years. I will do everything I can to defeat you. Your bullshit one-liner is not enough. You're worse than the Joy Reids and the Sonny Hostins. At least they're true believers in this nonsense. You secretly all along were worried about your daughters, and then you consciously endangered them so you could get a pat on the head from the Human Rights Campaign? How disgusting are you? Deep breaths. It's a joyous day. It is. It's genuinely a joyous day, but the evil must be held to account. The cowards. This guy who fought in Iraq for us, my team pulled his record. During the 2003 invasion of Iraq, he led one of the first infantry platoons to enter Baghdad. He was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Valor in addition to a Bronze Star. And he couldn't find his balls enough to protect his children and ours. It's a U.S. congressman with the power to protect all of our daughters or to hurt them. And only now that he's worried about his political ass does he come out with this admission. I can't. I have to take a break. Yes, I'm taking a break. I'm coming back. Don't go away. There's much, much more. Every day, the rhetoric gets more and more divisive. There's panic, with some people willing to say or do anything if they think it will help their side win. There's so much uncertainty, which explains why so many people are preparing for what may come next. Imagine the possibilities if this descends into chaos. All of this could impact things we take for granted. Right now, you can get ready with a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. It comes with delicious foods like creamy stroganoff, honey wheat bread, and mushroom rice pilaf. The entire kit offers over 2,000 calories every day. This food kit lasts up to 25 years. Who knows what our country is going to look like then, but be prepared. Go to preparewithmegan.com now to order your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. That's preparewithmegan.com. I had some of my water, and I reread my Steve Krakauer text about Glenn and his dog. So I'm in a better place again. I'm in a better place. That's good. Are you feeling it too? Is it just me? Like extreme emotional swings this week as I just remember the terrible people who got us into this position. And then I feel better when I think about those who are going to get us out. Trump, as it turns out, is not Hitler. We should have led with that. That's an important news piece of news to bring to you. He's not Hitler, as it turns out. Just ask the people who have been telling us he's Hitler and a Nazi and all the fascist things for the past few months. And that would be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, whose messages about Trump sound dramatically different this week than they did last.
I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him.
I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. Something I hope we can do no matter who you voted for. is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose.
Okay. So we're going to peacefully transition power to Hitler, who then immediately begin killing you all. He will open up the camps and start unleashing the DOJ on all of you and sending the military to your houses to arrest you if you didn't vote for him. That is what they were, minus the killing all of you, that is what they were saying days ago. You could still measure it in hours. But maybe not so Hitlery now that we've lost. Okay, just underscoring the absolute bullshit of everything they've been saying. It's a point Charlamagne was making over on his radio show, and he's not wrong. Take a listen.
I will say this. I'm glad everybody's having a sense of optimism, because the reality is we have no choice, because we're here now. Donald J. Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America, like it or not. And we all hope for the best for this country. That's all we can do. But don't y'all find it strange that now that he's won, they're not calling him a threat to democracy? They're not calling him a fascist. I mean, damn, on Monday.
They're not calling him anything.
On Monday, they was just calling him that. I would think that, if you really believe that, then somebody's speech would be about how America effed up and how things are about to be really bad.
Leaving that man
He's
alone.
the most powerful man in the world now.
Well, it just makes you wonder how much of it did they really believe, or how much of it was just politics.
Now,
That's all.
Okay, I'm confused because Charlamagne called him a fascist and forced Kamala Harris to say she thought he was a fascist. Like he demanded, which I don't get it. Like, you believe it or you don't believe it, because you said it, you pressed her to say it, and she said it, and now you're saying you think she just said it to win the election and that her behavior's changed. So what? I mean, you're well aware of that. You know, you just made her say it. Do you believe it? Because you don't sound like you believe. Like it reminds me of that Ezra Klein clip. He's the god on the left who. Now they developed like some severe crush on him. He was wrong about almost everything, just FYI. And by the way, with their whole like, where are we going to find a podcaster like Joe Rogan? He's your god. He's your kale-eating, scooter-riding, leftist effete god. That he doesn't have the influence of a man's man like Rogan with like the UFC fighting and the hunting and the guns. I'm sorry, but that's not your god is not the god. He's just not the god of podcasting. So try harder. He admitted this on his podcast when Joe Biden was spiraling downward, and Ezra Klein was one of the people he thought he should be replaced. He admitted this in a pretty interesting moment earlier in this campaign. Listen.
It would be quite unpleasant for me personally to come out against the president as a elected official in the Democratic Party and weighing what will happen if Donald Trump wins and saying, in a revealed preference way, I can live with Donald Trump winning. And I've had people say that to me off the record, to be fair.
Really?
I have had top Democrats say to me basically something like, I don't know why all these Democrats who think Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy are acting the way they are. But the reason I'm acting the way I am is because I don't think that.
Who the fuck is this? Who are these people? Out your sources, Ezra. I'm about to be in leaking text mode over here myself. Like, that is crazy.
That was Tim Miller, who I think he's the fool who interviewed Doug Emhoff, among others, and didn't ask him about the abuse allegations. He is with the Bulwark, not the Dispatch. And that is an important distinction, because the Dispatch, they're not pro-Trump. That's Jonah Goldberg and Steve Hayes, who are decent men who really can't stand Trump, but they're not lunatics, and their reporting is solid. The Bulwark are the lunatics. They're one step away from the Lincoln Project. They've truly, severe TDS, to the point where you get Doug Emhoff sitting there and you don't ask him about the abuse allegations against him at all. So that was Tim Miller on the receiving end of Ezra Klein's comments saying like, what? But at least Tim Miller's being kind of consistent, right? He's like, no, he's Hitler. No, what are you saying? They could accept Hitler. You can't accept Hitler. So it's amazing to see that veil come down. I promised you this yesterday. I said we heard that there was a Lincoln Project live feed from election night. It wasn't Lincoln Project. It was the Bulwark. the crazy Tim Miller, whatever, lunatic, never Trump site. And we pulled a little bit of how they took the news on Tuesday. Watch.
Let's talk about our feelings for a second.
Okay. The New York Times just decided to get.
That's what real men do.
Just decided to publish their needle. You want to know what they've got? Where the needle's right now?
Yeah, sure.
They've got Trump at 275 and Harris at 263.
All right, let's see. I'd rather be Trump. Trump is not just gaining in the rurals. He's gaining in Miami, Chicago, New York, Dallas, Houston. None of those are swing states.
It's a pretty grim evening, all told. There's no way to sugarcoat it. The trend lines are bad everywhere. If present trends continue, that'll be the big story. Whether we have, to use the name of your outfit, whether we have a bulwark for democracy.
Something important. I read somewhere that this election actually isn't all that important.
Being correct over the next 4 years is not really going to bring a lot of joy. I will tell you that. I'm not going anywhere. I'm fucking not leaving.
There is Bill Kristol joining at the last minute, by the way. Okay, well, good luck. That's fine. You can continue standing for your principles and continue losing. That's fine. How did it work out the first time again? Donald Trump lost in 2020 because of COVID, because of the most extreme development we'd seen in public health in generations, which sent the world into chaos and, by the way, led to a lot of mail-in balloting. I mean, I'm sorry. I've been one of those who's been mocking the election deniers, but how did they have 15 million more votes in 2020 than they've had before or after? I realize we had more because to some extent because the mail-in balloting was easier, but it does smell bad. You've got to look at that and say that smells bad. Anyway, fine. You're going to keep losing because you don't have COVID, and God willing, you won't have another COVID during the next term of Donald Trump. And if you continue to double and triple down on these terrible, terrible policies that alienate us all by race and gender and mutilate children, you will continue to lose. You were supposed to be conservatives. That's how both of those organizations I just mentioned, not to mention Lincoln Project, were born. Disaffected conservatives who didn't like Trump but still were conservative. How do you support this border? How do you support what's happening to the working class? They don't give a shit. Their TDS has driven them so insane, they'll sell every value they have up the river. That's what happened to Liz Cheney. That's why she's out there, supposedly deeply pro-life person, telling us we should vote for Kamala Harris. Trust in the media is at an all-time low. Can you blame them? Let's be honest. There's very good reason for this. We're all seeing how stories can be shaped or buried or killed or manipulated, depending on who's in charge. And this is why I want to tell you about a platform that does not play by those rules. One that prioritizes transparency above all else. Listen to this. The platform's called Ground News, an app and website that gathers related articles from around the world in one place, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. And they show you stories that are underreported by one side of the political spectrum. A recent Gallup survey showed declining trust in mass media, and guess who didn't cover it? Left-leaning media. On Ground News, more than 80% of the coverage of this story is coming from right-leaning sources. Ground News has an entire blind spot feed with stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage. And my viewers get 50% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and to their app. They are independent. They are supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. Check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, GROUND, news.com/Megyn to take back control of the news you consume. All right, so you might be asking yourself, what is the left's plan then? If they can't even admit or agree on what the cause of their massive losses was, how are they going to agree on a solution? Well, perhaps they'll look to their leader, Rachel Maddow, Miss $30 million a year for 1 hour of television a week. She only does one show on Mondays. She's found the solution. Here it is.
Not to be boring here for a second, but just getting very real. We now are just another one in the list of countries that has decided to, hey, what the heck? Let's try the strongman thing. There are many more countries in the world governed by that kind of a system than there are governed by ours. We are the only 248-year-old multiracial, pluralistic democracy in the world. And shall we keep it? A lot of our fellow Americans say we shouldn't. See, what they really don't want is for those tens of millions of Americans to wake up tomorrow feeling scrappy as hell. So now we can work full time on being fricking pirates, on being a thorn in the side to anyone who now intends to try to turn this country into some tin pot tyranny. Hope you are feeling scrappy. Hope you are tapping into your inner pirate energy. Because it is one thing to be a defender of the realm. It is another thing to be in opposition. And opposition can be a lot of things. It can be dangerous. It can also be fun. It would have been nice to win the election. Didn't. Okay. Time to save the country.
Oh my God. She is stomach turning, isn't she? It could be, you're in danger. What are you going to do with your 10 houses and your tens of millions? My God. You better start preparing. You should start getting the medication kits and the food right now. Store away. Trump is coming for you, Rachel. Jeez, could be fun. Could be fun. Oh, yeah. Who would ever know what it's like for MSNBC to be in the opposition? Oh, wait. Russia. We know your trick, Madam Pirate, when you're in the opposition. Your nobility in your efforts to save the country. You fucking lie. That's what you do. You lie every day. And then you play the victim. What a ridiculous person. She is such a great example of what happens to these media people. I've actually asked myself, I've asked myself, like, why didn't this happen to me? Maybe it did. Why didn't, when I actually started to earn money as a media person, did I not lose complete connection with my audience and my roots? I just didn't. I don't come from a rich family at all, as you've heard me say. I actually do come from a middle-class family. My dad was a professor, first at Syracuse University, and then at SUNY Albany, and my mom was a nurse. So I don't know what that makes us, but we didn't have a lot of money. They had 3 kids, and they put us through college, and it was great. And my dad died when I was young, and then my mom used his insurance money to help me go to college. So we were not rich. We were not poor, but we were not rich. And as I told you before, I spent every summer going through my mom's sprinkler in the backyard or at my Nana's very rundown but sweet boatyard on the Hudson River in Rockland County, where I most of the time was in the back making mud pies for fun. It was not rich in the sense we use that word today, but it was rich in all the other ways. It was some of the happiest times of my life. Those are the people I relate to. Those are the people I still surround myself with. Those are the people I make an effort to make sure my children are with often. We spend our summers at the Jersey Shore so that my kids will not grow up in only these elite rich circles, like I confess I live in now. It's fine. There are a lot of lovely people who are my dearest friends, but I'm just saying they need exposure to real America and not just privilege. Rachel Maddow doesn't know any of that. She doesn't know any of that. She's made so much money. She's lost her tether to real people. She thinks the whole world is the New York Times. And speaking of the New York Times, before I get to the New York Times, I would say I almost did. Sometimes I think that I had risen to the top at Fox and that I was starting to believe like my own press. You know, maybe that's what happened with the whole realignment. Maybe that's what led me to like ultimately go to NBC and have such a disastrous ride there because I needed to be knocked down. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the Lord knows better for you what you need than you know. And you get knocked down and then you're at a crossroads. You have a decision to make. Who am I? What do I actually believe in? It's very helpful to have a realignment like that, to have almost like a false God, this like peaceful existence I was going to have on the left, not doing politics. That was my goal in going to NBC. And then the left shows me who they really are over there when my own politics inevitably came out over and over while I was on NBC defending Brett Kavanaugh and so on. Just a reminder of who you really are and what your value system is. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But speaking of the New York Times and who Rachel Maddow surrounds herself with and who she reads every day to lead her to be so out of touch. She thinks she's a pirate. It's going to be fun to be in the opposition. And she doesn't believe because of this election that we have a multiracial, pluralistic democracy. Forgive me if you missed it, but it's very multiracial, pluralistic group over on Team Trump. We've had blacks voting for Trump in levels we've never seen before, or at least since the late 80s for a Republican. We saw Hispanics voting for him. Almost 50% of Hispanics in the country voted for Donald Trump, not to mention working class voters. And yes, some rich people too. Kind of pluralistic. Those around him, half of them voting for him and running with him are Democrats. Elon was a double Barack Obama voter. RFKJ is still a Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat who ran for president under the Democratic ticket 4 years ago. Now she's a Republican because of the lunacy, but who are you kidding that this is not a pluralistic group that just got elected? And by the way, Trump was a Democrat for most of his life too. Hello. We put together this montage of these New York Times opinion writers who thought it might be good to, after the election, this was put together on Wednesday, not Monday, warn us what's coming under the regime of Donald Trump. The worst possibilities. This was like styled under, one day we'll do the worst and the next day we'll do the best. And the ones that they dropped today were just absolutely pathetic. It was like, well, I can't really think of anything. Maybe this, but when he leaves, that'll be, anyway, here's some of their worst predictions. Rachel's friends.
And it is not only extremist, but also effective in that extremism.
Emboldened by a series of Supreme Court rulings, perhaps bolstered by support in both houses of Congress, Trump will fulfill his promise to be a dictator on day one.
He sends troops into neighborhoods like my own to try to round up undocumented immigrants, that he sets up a network of camps.
Mass deportations. It would likely plunge the United States into something like a recession. His tariffs, likewise, promise to spike prices for most Americans and cause costs to go up dramatically.
That version of Trump could result in abandoning Ukraine to advancing Russian armies, could result in extraordinarily erratic foreign policy in the Middle East.
I mean, Donald Trump often talked about things like bombing Mexico to deal with drug cartels. People stopped him from doing that.
But there's not going to be any adults in the room this time.
The worst version of a Trump administration seeks various forms of retribution against Trump's enemies, real and perceived.
Okay, so that you got a little preview there of what you're going to be reading in the New York Times as we head into the Trump. They're totally open-minded. I'm sure the Times is going to do a 180 to try to reach out to the disaffected middle that's already rejected them. Okay, you get the picture. These people, Rachel and the others, the Bulwark people, are basically the on-air version of what we're seeing online in reacting to the Trump win. There's a couple that take the place, but this woman in number 37 on TikTok, she speaks for a large amount of the very angry left. This type of messaging is all over TikTok and Instagram today. Take a listen.
I took the morning to grieve. That's all the time we have. Now is your time to start making a plan. Women, I'm here to talk to you today. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to delete your period tracking app. I don't care what state you're in. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to follow creators like Jessica Valenti. She talks about abortion in her newsletter, Abortion Every Day. She is a godsend. I don't know how she does it. You're going to get the pill. You're going to get the implant in your arm. You're going to get the IUD. You're going to get your tubes tied. For your safety is to not get pregnant right now. I am not going to get pregnant right now, even though I would love to have a family one day. That dream just went out the window forever, unless I move to another country. If you and your male partner voted differently this election, if he voted for that man, you need to leave him. You need to leave him. I'm sorry. You need to leave him. I know you love him. I know you love him. I know you think he's going to change. I know you think he just doesn't understand your problems. I know that you think he's more concerned about the economy. But especially if you're married to him, you are in danger right now. You are in a lot of danger. Speaking of marriage, I wouldn't get married right now.
I don't think you have to worry.
If you do, get a really, really strong prenup. But I can't promise you that that's going to be honored. Be prepared so that you don't have to panic. I can't really speak on the experience of people of color, of people who are LGBTQ. You guys all need to be making your own plans as well. Everyone needs to be making a plan depending on which category you're in, because they're putting us in categories now.
Oh, they're putting us in categories. The Trump administration, yes, they're all about the categories, unlike the left with their BIPOC and their LGBTQ and That's an insane person. They're everywhere. I don't know what happened. Is that a COVID hangover that the woman has of insanity? As she's had like an SSRI cocktail that went wrong? But this is like, she's not alone. Would you listen to the number of absolutely insane things that were in that woman's diatribe? You have to, you've got to get the pill, the insert in your arm, like ASAP. You have to delete your period tracker app because Trump and JD Vance are going to be on there. She's fertile. It's 2 weeks after she was fertile. Somebody get in there and check her womb. Make sure she carries that baby to term. Okay. Don't get married at all. Clearly not a concern for her. And if you are married, you should divorce your husband. Divorce your husband if you voted for Trump. You're not safe, she said. Leave your spouse and get your tubes tied. Actually, never have children, which in her case may be a very good idea. I mean, truly, I'm not like, it's not nice, but I really feel that way. This woman should not reproduce. It's not a concern. But what kind of a person gets online to tell everybody not to get married, to divorce their spouses if they are married, to take birth control nonstop, to make sure that they have all sorts of medications ready to go because the government's going to be monitoring them? Like, and then you have the leftists who lost this election lamenting how the right wing is spreading disinformation. I mean, she's not alone. There is this mom who she might divorce her husband for all I know, because she did something very irresponsible, which we've seen a lot of leftists do. She dragged her kids into it. Let me tell you something. Back when Trump won in 2016, I was not rooting for him. I was angry with him at the time. I did not share any of that with my children. I did not want my children to have to think about politics at their young, tender ages back then. And I never let them know that I had personally negative feelings about him. And I understood all along that he could win. And the last thing I wanted was for any sort of political upset I might have been feeling to be shared with my children. I know that is how the vast majority of American parents behave. I was not in the minority. But this lunatic on the left, there are lots of her, because we have seen this trend too, trying to share your neuroses with your children, which of course has the sad effect of passing them on. Watch.
Harris did not win.
Who won?
Trump. So I'm
Take a breath.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So today may look a little different at school. Okay, there are probably going to be friends who have questions, right? I'm sure your teachers are going to.
Are you sad?
I'm very sad.
And now you're crying.
That's child abuse. She's an abuser, working out her own bizarre mental issues through her kids is abuse. She cares more about her politics than she does about her children. She intentionally upset them. Who doesn't know how to handle a child in that situation, even if you're upset? Even if you're on the airplane and you think that there's a serious problem, you tell the kid it's fine. You don't say to the kid, I'm deeply upset, this thing's going down. What kind of a shit parent is that? This is just like, people are deranged. Not everybody should have kids. Back to Lady One. She's starting to talk me into it. Maybe you should delete your period app and get the thing in your arm and don't have sex and get rid of your husband. Maybe you should. If you think like these people think, she's right. Be an incel. Don't reproduce. Not everybody's fit to be a parent. This is just so wrong. We have to stop, because you've seen all these colleges cancel classes in the wake of Trump's victory. We talked earlier in the week about Fieldston ethical culture in New York City. They are not alone. It happened in a lot of colleges too. All these professors saying classes canceled. I don't have the list in front of me, but there were a lot of them. Our school sent out a memo saying you will show up, you will teach, and you will not share your politics with the children. Right on, sir. They're not, as I say, alone in the Democrat Party. Their leaders, in terms of who is at the top in American celebrity culture and so on, are just as upset and just as gone. Madonna decided to put out an F Trump cake and eat it, and had a bunch of expletives that she wanted to share with us about how dangerous he is and how bad he is. Stuffed my face with his cake last night. F Trump. All right. Girl power. Is that your solution? Okay, so far we have be a pirate, divorce your husband, and eat a cake that says F Trump. Any other ideas to somebody else? Let's see. Let's check in with Kathy Griffin and see how she's doing.
So now we're paying the price, and freedom isn't free, and we've been free. And technically, we're still a democracy. Gays, you may not be safe. So to be gay in America, much less trans, because they're obsessed with trans people, to be LGBT in America is not going to be a safe thing anymore. So to be a woman in America will be even less safe than it already is. I know this will get me in trouble, but I really, really wish Taylor Swift had done an event with Vice President Harris in Pennsylvania. Did not realize how racist and misogynistic America still is.
Oh my God. She's so dumb. She still thinks Taylor Swift is the answer. Taylor Swift would not have saved you, Kathy. She has no power. She has power to make little girls buy albums. That's it. She couldn't have gotten this done. Just like Beyonce didn't get it done. Just like Beyonce, who actually did campaign for Hillary and played songs, unlike this time around, couldn't get it done. Just like Michelle and Barack Obama, the biggest stars on Team Blue, couldn't get it done. Oprah couldn't get it done. None of these. You have to change your insane politics and messaging and cultural behavior if you ever want to win an election again. The answer, you dumbass, is not Taylor Swift. Let's check in with Rosie O'Donnell. Somebody should do a wellness check. Obviously, she's got to be upset. Let's hear what she has to say about what happened.
For yourself, call your friends, check on them. And get ready, because we're in for one hell of a ride with him at the helm. And no immunity guardrails. Okay? We got rid of the Electoral College. Does that... Anybody like that? Anyone? I'm not so sure anymore. It's a popular vote. That's what we need to do. Who gets the most votes wins. One vote, one person. No racist math in the equation. Okay?
She doesn't know he won the popular vote. She doesn't know. She decided to take the time to go online, do her little bit without doing like a simple Google search. Is there anybody in the country who doesn't know he won the popular vote too? It's been a very big story. She used to sit on what's supposed to be a news analysis program every day. Okay, why don't we try that? Oh, wait, that won't help you either. He won that too. And guess who helped put him over the edge? A bunch of women. The women you tried to scare with the abortion lies. That's great. I mean, that's like, talk about misinformation. What are we going to do about that misinformation? Oh, this is tough. So we're going to have to crack down on it. Okay. One other thing. Yesterday we did our biggest losers of campaign 2024. And today we have part 2 of our biggest losers list. There were so many to get to. Late in the show, I added Joe Scarborough. And that's worthy of going back and listening to, because he's absolutely one of them. Zero credibility left. None. But how could I have forgotten these guys, white dudes for Harris?
Women's freedom is Exhibit A after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. We got the dude, we got Pete. It's like a rainbow of beige.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration.
I know that we have a lot of speakers
And afterward, of course, there's another Zoom that I invite you all to called Couches Against Trump, better known as Cats. And J.D. Vance is his mini-me. I even created my own cognitive test that describes the two of them. Sofa, dolphin, shark, cats, convict.
Okay, Governor Pritzker, why don't you go back to Illinois and work on transing some more kids, since that seems to be your family's life mission? Okay, you wonder who's behind all the trans messaging? The Pritzker family. We did a whole episode about it. Why don't you worry more about that than your weird acronyms that got you nowhere, shockingly. What the hell was he saying? Does anybody follow? Bradley Whitford, he starred on The West Wing and he thinks he's actually like a political operative. You were playing a role, sir. You learn nothing about actual politics. You make that clear with all of your commentary. A rainbow of beige. Big losers. Not quite as big as what part was she? A white lady, white women for Kamala? Remember? I mean, like, speaking of dividing us into groups. Yeah. Who could forget the most annoying person of campaign 2024? Ariel.
As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots.
I've got my listening ears on, Ariel, and what I heard was a deafening roar from the working class Americans who are over you and your bullshit. How are they going to excise that? They put her on. This was like one of the big first Zoom calls for Kamala Harris after the coup. And this was the message. Like, they chose to put this person on and give her a forum and thought that was great messaging. I mean, good luck explaining to Ariel that we're no longer going to be doing that. That we're going to stop with the BIPOC, CRT, trans insanity. Like, I can't wait to watch it unfold. I wish you all the luck in the world. You're going to need it. The other big losers, the ridiculous, obviously partisan pollsters, including this guy, Allan Lichtman. Allan Lichtman is the guy who was touted as having gotten all the presidential races right, all the way going back, I don't know how many years, 20 plus years. He only got one wrong, and it was Bush v. Gore, and that one was only decided by the Supreme Court after like 500 votes divided the two men, so you could forgive him. So they really touted him as being the Nostradamus of predicting presidential elections. He has 13 keys, and he just keeps plugging them into every race. And if the keys come up a certain way, he just goes with that person's name, supposedly irrespective of his own partisan politics. And he said it was going to be Harris. And some people like Nate Silver said, I used your same keys just for fun, and they don't predict a Harris win. They actually predict a Trump win. And Allan got very upset and was given a forum all over cable news because they all needed to be told that Kamala was going to win. She's going to win. She's going to win. Don't worry. And so I'm going to play two sound bites from him. Here's the one right after she lost, SOT 13.
Look, my prediction for this presidential election was wrong. I own up to it. Right now, I am taking time off today, Wednesday, through my live show Thursday. My aim is to assess why the keys were wrong and what we can learn from this era and what the election means for the future of our country going forward.
Well, he took his time off, he did his assessment, and he has come back with the following piece of analysis. Look.
Do you think the issue is that Trump is beyond the keys and Trump changed the locks?
I think that's a little too glib. It's not just Trump. Trump blipped out tomorrow. Nothing much would change. It's the deeper forces that I outlined of deception, racism, misogyny, and xenophobia, which are by no means limited to Trump. Speaking of xenophobia, racism. Did we get a Senate result in Arizona, Sam? Did that horrible woman lose?
It's not been called yet, but Ruben Gallego is up.
That's your nonpartisan analysis that you've been seeing all over the airwaves. Correct on every election since 1984, except for that one. That's him. He wasn't really wrong. The keys are perfect. It's just our racism and misogyny that trumped them this time around. Great job, Allan. You completely effed yourself. You have zero credibility left, and you are officially a biggest loser of 2024. How could I forget the media? And some specific players deserve a specific call out. Dana Bash of CNN. You know, you were on the right track. You co-hosted that one debate between Trump and Biden with Jake Tapper, and you asked relatively anodyne questions. Really, you weren't the story that night because Joe Biden's mental meltdown was. But you had made it. You had made it through that first debate unscathed. And then you got the first sit down with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and you completely crapped the bed. You didn't ask any challenging questions. You were a supplicant in that interview. You let her get away with saying she had held her. No, I'm not in favor of banning fracking nonsense. And I've said that since 2020. You let her get away with it. She did not reverse her favor of a fracking ban in 2020. She had gone on stage in a vice presidential debate at the time and said she would support Joe Biden's policy of not banning fracking. That is not the same. You didn't push her on that at all. You let her cling to her emotional security white blanket next to her emotional security support governor. You didn't ask him any hard questions, and you completely set the tone for the media, giving them a hard pass on any questions. To their credit, only 60 Minutes with their mild-mannered reporter asking a few hard questions about the border would start at least a mild trend of asking a few tough questions, but it would take 6 weeks. You blew it. You are one of my biggest losers. Margaret Brennan over at CBS. Yes, you did not acquit yourself well, sister, in this election. You were one of the co-hosts of that vice presidential debate, and you were the one who kept trying to fact-check J.D. Vance falsely and then cut his mic when he tried to correct your crappy fact check about what was happening down on the Joe Biden border. You tried, you played, you lost, madam. Your co-host, Dora O'Donnell, was not much better at the debate, but she was a little better. And then she resumed her post on the CBS Evening News and her hard partisan coverage of said news. Every night in the week leading up to the presidential election, she got more and more rabid in the way she would open the show and frame what Trump was doing versus what Kamala Harris was doing. The examples were legion. They went completely viral. Both of you have sacrificed your credibility, at least whatever was left of it. And most of us are enjoying that. While we're on the media, ABC News. I mean, we all watched the debate between Kamala Harris and President Trump, and President Trump and David Muir and Lindsay Davis, his other two adversaries. Was there ever a more biased showing in a debate by the moderators? The so-called fact-checking, which, I mean, by my count, at least 9 out of 10, or 4 to 5, however many they did, were false. They kept interrupting him. Remember David Muir? Well, it didn't sound sarcastic to me. What? Mr. I am king of all emotions and I can read exact... Those two huge losers. ABC News was rated the most biased in its evening news coverage of this entire race by the Media Research Center, and they know of what they speak. And then there's my friend Mark Cuban. Oh, Mark. People are pointing out online that he's looking an awful lot like Rachel Maddow. They're not wrong. That's not a good thing, Mark. It's time to reevaluate your look. You've got a lot of money. You could go to a good hairstylist. You don't have to wear like the big liberal glasses, the huge dark glasses that they're all wearing now to lecture us. In fact, apropos of those two sad ladies we were showing you, the one crying with her kids and the other saying, divorce your husband. Somebody got on Twitter or TikTok and did like a mocking bit of these leftist meltdowns. We've got to show this lady. Look.
Okay, I'm going to guide you through. Now, shave the head. Glasses. I don't know where you get these big glasses, but we all have them. So if you want to be one of us, you've got to find these somewhere in a store. I don't know where I got these, but everybody's got them. The septum piercing. Get that right away. For some reason, that unites us. The passport. Get your passport. You're going to need it. Plan B. Pharmacy right away. You've got to go to your pharmacy and get your Plan B. And most importantly, you cannot wear a bra ever again. Okay, then there's this. You've got to do this. You've got to tape that baby up. You've got to tape it up. I'm going to just tell you. The blue bracelet. Don't forget the blue bracelet. Don't forget the blue bracelet so we know who we are. Okay. I don't know where to get these glasses. We all have them, and I can't tell you where to get them. I don't know. But I'm going to get some duct tape. I don't have any duct tape right now. I only had the packing tape, but I'm getting the duct tape.
I mean, that's like one step away from Mark Cuban right now. She's not wrong. It was well done by this woman. The blue bracelet is apparently their secret way of showing each other that they voted for Kamala. They're Team Blue. And they're in the resistance. They're pirates, just like Rachel. So, okay, how will we ever figure it out? Oh, you know what? I have news for you. We didn't need your bracelet. Your duct tape over your vag was enough for us to tell. It's amazing. So Mark Cuban, you were a huge loser, not only because you threw it all in for Kamala Harris, but because you made the disastrous mistake of saying there were no smart, intelligent, or strong, intelligent women who supported Donald Trump, and they showed up in droves on Tuesday to prove just how wrong you were. So suck it. Okay. On the winner list, yes, obviously, DT. Donald Trump is the biggest winner of all, the greatest comeback of all time, the greatest political run, the greatest political story of all time. So much winning. He's actually correct about that prediction he made long ago. But we've got to spend 1 minute, and this is where I'm going to close out the show, on J.D. Vance. I'm so proud of the guy. He's been so on point. He took so much shit when he was named, especially when they did the switcheroo on the Dem side and people were getting nervous. And they were like, you should have done something that would appeal to more Republicans like Nikki Haley, which really didn't understand where the Republican Party is right now at all. She's not popular, to put it mildly, with the MAGA base. And he took a lot of shit with those childless cat ladies, all this stuff. They tried to paint J.D. Vance into a monster. And he is anything but. He is a dear, kind, smart, noble guy. He really is. And to this moment, he's running, kind of messaging for Trump in a way that really cuts through the nonsense. He just sent out a tweet that I pulled because you should hear it, where he's trying to speak to the people on this whole disinformation, who was misled and who wasn't. This is what he writes. One of the most important skills I see in successful and good people is to constantly reevaluate assumptions. They make predictions based on various inputs, some of them unknown, and reevaluate based on what they got right and wrong. They trust people not because they're always right, no one is, but because if you're constantly seeking the truth, it's easy to identify those who are doing the same. Not you, Allan Lichtman. That was me, not him. If you were confident that Donald J. Trump was going to lose, maybe you should question what else you, quote, know about him. Maybe the people who misled you about his electoral chances have misled you about other things. In the words of Cormac McCarthy, quote, if the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule? Well said. There is not likely to be that kind of reflection on the left, but J.D. Vance doesn't need to prove himself anymore to any of us. And I'm privileged to have met him a long time ago and to have seen the promise in this guy when he was still pretty baby-faced, a little rounder than he is today, not quite as sharp in a few different ways, but still just as special. And it's a clip that's been making the rounds on Twitter in the wake of his victory, and I thought we'd close with it today. Here we are. Was it 17 or 18? I always forget. The years are kind of blending together. It was 2017. Yours truly and J.D. Vance. Being sworn at, insulted, or humiliated by your parents.
Sure. Check.
Being pushed, grabbed, or having something thrown at you.
Check.
Having parents who are separated or divorced.
Check.
Living with an alcoholic or a drug user.
Check.
Living with someone who is depressed or attempted suicide.
Check.
Watching a loved one be physically abused.
Check.
You're batting 1,000.
Yeah.
That man will be sworn in as Vice President of the United States on January 20th, notwithstanding the many lies that have been told about him, too. He's exactly right. you should go back and look at the people who told you those lies or who weren't open-minded to the possibility that this is a complex human being just like all of us. And notwithstanding a comment here or there should be judged on the full body of his thoughts and work. J.D. Vance is a good man. So is Donald Trump. And we are lucky that men like that are willing to serve us. I, for one, will be cheering him in a particularly special way when he takes the office, along with his beautiful wife, Usha, who's the smartest of us all. I mean, this woman is absolutely brilliant and will be, I'm sure, helping him in the challenge of his life. And we should all be praying for both of them to stay safe, to feel emboldened, to enact the clear mandate that they've been given, and to get to work on helping the Americans who put them in office. I can't wait to see them get started. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.